Hi guys, welcome to Simon on the Sofa. This is a real medley of a day today, which is really magical. We've got people hopefully tuned in on Ustream, so we're doing this as a live sofa today for the first time. Hopefully some people we've just sent it around now, so hopefully some of you have tuned in. And with a very recent but very close and a magical friend that we've just been connected in the last sort of 3 months, and you've probably seen Rasheed and talk on the. He's not here yet. He's arriving in about 10 minutes. But yeah, me and Rasheed met a little while ago, and you may have seen a talk that we've already done on the sofa. So if you've seen that talk, this is nothing to do with any repeat. Today is very much about an evolution of our conversations. And one of the things that has been happening with me and Rasheed, we've been really, I'd say practicing, continuing our dialogues, and also really embodying transparent communication. Rasheed will share this in a minute, but Rasheed has asked me many times, transparency, truth. There's many versions of truth and so on. So we thought that would be a good topic for today. So thanks for tuning in, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's really exciting, and I think that this thing about truth and my living a lie, I think I remember having written some of your forthcoming book, and a bit about. I was really struck by both from when I was reading, you kindly shared with me part of the book, and from hearing us talk, and sometimes I can't even remember the distinction between when we've spoken and the bit from the book that I've read, but I was very struck by a couple of points where you in your own life, at different points, have asked yourself, hang on a minute, is this life that I'm living serving me at certain points in the past? And that's very powerful, in that I got a sense from the book and so on that you're very passionate about wanting to live from that place of truth. Obviously, what is that place of truth? This can be good for us to kind of explore, but at certain points when you're young, when you talked about, being involved in crime and so on, a point when you realise this just does not serve me, I don't want to live this lie. And also then later on after, after that life kind of bit by bit dissolved away, even then when you'd had a successful career in acting, and in fact, as that success in that career was emerging, at the pinnacle of where things could have taken off even more, you asked yourself, actually, you just felt hang on, this doesn't ring true to me. And that's really, really powerful. So I've always been struck by that fact, and I think that you're very passionate about that, and you're constantly passionate about that, constantly scratching that surface and hang on, is this true? How can I create that kind of stuff from truth? And we've been talking about creating a documentary, exploring what could the theme be. Am I living a lie? What is truth? Am I living a lie? So I think this is just a really interesting topic to talk about, and we wanted to kind of talk maybe around the documentary and what is truth? Can anyone get at truth?
Yeah, totally.
What is it? Because we talk a lot about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think in the first case, from the time when being involved in something like crime, somebody could say, well, that's being deceitful. There it maybe seems more clear cut. But then again, it's interesting when you're acting. What struck me about that. Somebody is obviously playing somebody else in a way that is living a lie, even though it's helping to expose a truth. But what about in our everyday? Lots of people feel that they're living a lie, or that they have to tell a lie. Can people even tell the truth? What happens if one tells the truth? Are we privileged enough here in this beautiful society that we happen to live that we can tell what we believe is a truth? If I tell my truth somewhere else, how's anybody going to respond to that? Because very often there's just one idea of what truth is.
Yeah.
So for me, I think this is a really, really important topic. I sometimes say it's not one thing that somebody believes about themselves that's a problem. It's everything that they have been led to believe. In a way, that's kind of quite challenging, isn't it? We start off without any ideas about ourselves. We don't even have any ideas of truth, lies, right, wrong, good, bad, any kind of duality. But soon enough, we're taught this, that, good, bad, this is how you should be.
Yeah.
And then that, it seems, sets us up for all sorts of challenges, because then we feel, oh, I should be this way, I should be good, I should be well behaved. Am I being bad? My brother's good, I'm bad, I'm right, I'm bright, I'm smart, I'm stupid, I'm this person's gay, this person's straight, this person's tall, this person's short, this person is Muslim, this person's Christian, this person is Jewish, and all this kind of stuff. All of this kind of separation. So how is it that one can even get about truth? How can one even talk about truth? So I've always liked the fact that you invite us in your work, that you're on that journey to kind of at least explore how truthful is it that I can be. Yeah, that's a bit of a ramble, but
no, it's good. But it's good that you've brought that in terms of in terms of there's not a ramble, there's a lot there, because I think when I set out on this, you know, because I use the word transparency, as you know, as truthful. You know, you could just label it as, you know, honest, truthful, communicating what you truly think and feel and what's on your mind in that moment as it arises. And also knowing that, what, like you just said, every single individual from my experience is at different stages of their own experience. So they're also at different stages of their own exploration again of truth, of lies, of, you know, deceit, of, you know, being let down, or you know, finding their way, you know, as we meander through the, you know, the soup and the creative flow and the magic and the wonder and the unknown, you know, and it's so it's really so it's really interesting for me, because people do also in reality talk of one truth, don't they? Religion very much talks of like one truth, you know, God is the truth, or you know, or divine love is the truth, or you know, there's this one, you know, this one essence of truth that is the underbelly of everything, and that, you know, and that, for example, that great saying, famous old saying, the truth will out. Well, you know, the idea of the truth will out means that there must be some sort of foundation of absolute, you could say, you know, absolute truth. But then it's interesting, because then when you go on this exploration from a very open space and you look at, you know, what truth is, well, then we look at, as we rightfully said, no judgment, expectation, condition. Labeling words is limiting. If you label words, you limit words. So therefore, your interpretation of what I think a word means isn't the same as anybody else's. So you've got all of that going on. Do you see what I mean? And then within that, within all of that, you've then got that no matter what, an individual has the ability, the strength and capability to actually uphold whatever it is they want to believe as truth, because you're the creator of your own reality. So do you see what I mean?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? All of that stuff is, it's interesting just hearing it and hearing it kind of vibrate, because you know, it takes me back to that thing that you were saying in there about language. You know, I think of all those different things you were saying there, that thing about language I think is really interesting, because she said that, you know, my interpretation, and when you say a word, and a sentence therefore is different of your interpretation, so the word means different things to different people. So I was having an interesting conversation with a flatmate and a friend the other day, and I was beginning to point out how once we've got language, we're in all sorts of kind of difficulty, because therefore there are all sorts of ideas around a particular word. A word is not the thing, and then you've got all these ideas that emerge, and then it can become very complicated. And I think one of the things that's really interesting is very often when people disagree, I've observed many times where people are actually disagreeing around interpretation. It's really essentially about language. That's why it's beautiful starting off these talks and so on in silence and so on, where, you know, there's far less room for dispute, anger, frustration, battling, conflict in silence. You know, it's not impossible, but there's far less kind of stuff. Once we bring in language and ideas, it becomes very, 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 very difficult. So I think you've kind of got all this internal stuff that somebody's kind of got going on, and then how they interact in the world and how they verbalize that, and if they even feel they can verbalize, and what somebody's going to think about that. There seems to be so many layers to even get to this truth. So what I like about it is when you talk about, well, this is what's coming up for me, or, you know, just sharing from that particular space. It's interesting, one thought I had about truth, and I think this was around one of the last times when we were just talking, having one of our chats about truth, was that one thing that struck me, if somebody, let's say, where's Simon? And I could say, you know, Simon's here on the sofa, and that's true. But it's no longer true 5 minutes later. Simon might be here, Simon might be, you know, where's that? So you're on the phone speaking to somebody. You know, what is the truth? Because the truth is constantly changing. And what is true for somebody may well constantly change. You know, what is true for them in their job may well change. What's true to them in themselves might change. What's true to them in terms of relationship may well change. What's true to them in terms of people that they want in their life.
And this is day by day, this is in the moment.
Day by day, and minute by minute.
Minute by minute,
how I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling up. So this kind of thing about truth, it's not fixed in that kind of a way. So I think that this word about transparent is beautiful, because it allows more, just a little bit of space, a little bit more fluency, and then maybe we wouldn't feel as tight about kind of stuff, because we feel as though everything needs to be resolved. And that's one of the challenges. So very often when people feel as though they're not being true to themselves, or everybody, or, you know, you can have this idea that everybody else is sorted and I'm somehow not right, you know, which life is also that setup. You know, there's a setup in life that you're not perfect, that things aren't right. You know, that's just the other side. You've got to change,
you've got to do more, you've got to add more to you, you've got to be better, you've got to compete in order to survive, you've got to, you know, know, you've got to have more additions to your label or title.
You've got to be bigger, better, brighter.
Yeah.
So that there's an idea you're not true. That basically, that's, you know, it brings up that whole thing, you're not complete, you're not true.
You're not true in today's society, totally.
Yeah, you're not true, you're not true. You're not only true when you complete this and this. So people often have this idea that they're not true. I wonder, can something not be true?
Yeah, well, you know what, it's great that you said that, because I was going to say that actually when you was talking just in the beginning of your talk, I was going to say, even the idea of asking the question, what is truth, almost takes you out of that, the truth, right? Because the minute you try to dissect it and understand it, you can't, because at the end of the day, it is all truth, or it is all a lie, or it all just is, right? So again, it's only our own interpretation of what we judge to be a lie or truth, because, you know, as we say before, you know, the way that you live your life and your upbringing means that, you know, I wanted to touch on something you said there, which was the boundaries and the limitation and attachment that people have to their own belief of truth or lie. Do you see what I mean? So it's like, it's not, you said transparency gives you that fluidity to be a bit open, which is true, because it's like, well, if I can enter in our relationship without that judgment and instantly clinging on to my identification of words or meanings, then actually not only am I opening up myself to being able to learn more, to receive more, but also to then enter in dialogue, which can actually transcend any form of interpretation, belief, concept, theory.
Quite right.
You see?
Quite right, and that resonates with me. And the one thing one word that I just felt from the things that we said that I want to kind of draw out is this word, my, or somebody's my stuff. You know, very often people feel that, you know, it's their ideas and their stuff, and that there's, you know, something that they need to perfect or whatever. I've got a hunch. Something strikes me that I don't feel that that's quite, let's use the word true, because when somebody starts out, because I don't have any ideas or whatever, or consciously, I don't have many memories from when I was going back, apart from, you know, prior to 2, I can't remember any memories. So all this kind of stuff about how I feel about myself and the world and so on is conditioned, you know, it's based on what I've been told. So even when we get to a point in 20-something, 30-something, 40-something, where we believe this is me and I've got this, whatever my story is, that stuff isn't even my ideas. Is the religion that I believe, is that my construct?
Yeah.
Or is it a construct I've been given? That my identity about myself, is that my construct? Probably it's been based around all sorts of stuff that's been given to me, okay, I add to it and so on. So I think that sometimes when we can even look and realise that, hang on, even all this kind of stuff is just stuff, it's not actually quite true, my stuff, that allows a little bit of space between even me and my idea of my truth, because even who is the me in all of this kind of stuff, you know, because so often people can be led to feel, and you often see it even in a kid very early on, you often see it when these ideas of you're a good boy, you're a bad boy and so on, and you're beginning, you know, maybe 6 or 7 and maybe there've been some issues going on, and you can start to label, you are bad, and then this person feels, and they're trying to sort all this stuff about themselves and they feel bad, and that might begin a whole story of them acting a certain way or believing certain stuff about themselves, whereby if that stuff isn't so attached and somebody can just point out, well, this or that may not have been in keeping with what's meant to be or deemed to be useful in that situation. That allows a little bit more space. Maybe people wouldn't feel that they were so untrue to themselves or feel wrong or in any kind of way. And because of our labelling attachment, you are this.
Yeah.
Because I actually don't think the human being is that fixed in that kind of a way. You know, it's not, as we were saying before, you know, the feelings change, the emotions change. And I think that allows us a little bit more kind of space around this kind of thing about true. And I just think that the other thing I wanted to kind of say is that this whole idea about this documentary, I think what really resonates with it for me is that because you've been on this journey, you've been on a really powerful journey. In terms of experiencing life with all of its ups and downs. And we've touched on this a few times, you know, from a situation that you were in, which was quite a tense, difficult kind of situation. There's all sorts of kind of stuff going down, you know, I can't imagine what it's like, but when you're involved in a kind of lifestyle where there's crime, there's this and that kind of going on, it's very scary and blah, blah. You had to get out of that, you knew you had to get that. That really didn't ring true. By asking yourself questions, you're able to take yourself to a space that's been far more true to your core and not in that kind of place of conflict. So I do feel what is really interesting is by that mere exploration, that questioning process, as you've gone on, all sorts of stuff can definitely fall away and one can find themselves in a far more healthy, rich place to connect to oneself as you have found, and the world as you have found through the work that you're doing. So that's what really excites me about this documentary, and to ask people, who are they, how do they feel about themselves, what is truth to them, what journey have they been on to, what rings true to them, what doesn't ring true to them. Does even this idea of these questions we're asking them ring any truth to them? Because I do think there's something very powerful about your journey when somebody asks that question and sits with that, and certain stuff falls away, a whole different whole particular kind of lifestyle and habits and so on. As you know, you've changed everything in terms of the diet, the this, the that, the kind of people you hang around with. That's quite powerful and profound, isn't it? So I wonder your take on that.
Yeah, it's listening to a lot there, and it's just coming in. But I mean, there was something there that you touched on about projection, which I just want to pick up on, and then move into that question about, in terms of, like, from my own journey. But is that the projection that we put on other people based on our own individual experience, based on our own individual belief, based on our own idea of what this indescribable experience is, whether it be, whatever it be, reality on a planet revolving around space and so on. So yeah, it's really interesting when you look at what is truth and what is lie, because following this transparent journey that I've been on, I've made a judgment. Of course it's a judgment that society and that people lie, because I lied, and I look at society and I see that society is built on a foundation of lies. In order to sell products, in order to sell anything in this man-made world, most people have to bend the truth. So most people will be okay with us saying bend the truth but not lie. It's like, no, I don't lie, I play the game. Okay, well, playing the game means that you have to lie. But also, again, if we take out the idea of judging something right or wrong, good or bad, is a lie bad? Is it not bad? You see where it goes? It can go so many places. So the whole, the whole idea of truth for me, just for me, the reason why I'm so enthusiastic, as you know, about transparent communication is because I see transparent communication shifting the whole complete, energy, vibration, frequency, cellular memory of the human species, having embodied what each individual believes is their truth. Because if there is a real, say there is an absolute, say there is, like, it is all truth and it is all one and it is all there, then I suppose what I've been looking at is that normally if you embody your truth, you hurt absolutely no one. And it serves absolutely everybody. Therefore, it serves the whole. Therefore, it serves nature, which we are nature. If it serves us, it serves everybody else. So going back to, crime and the journey that I've been on, you can clearly see that at the time I thought I was living my truth. But then when I realized that I was not living my truth, because I was stealing and I was harming people and harming myself, and mentally and physically living in fear and anxiety, and whether it's because I smoked marijuana or because I was dealing in a lot of crime and guns and things, energy that creates fear of police, fear of being arrested, fear of all of that, fear of being even attacked or in some way abused from even the circles that you're in. If you just look at that just as a polarity and go, well, okay, I was in that, it not only was not serving me, it was not serving anybody else in the whole mix. And then when I got out of that and started to embody my truth, I started to then realize I had more energy, more ability to help others, more ability to serve others, more just natural capacity to be in a more harmonious flow.
Yeah.
And then if you just look at those two, it's like, well, was I being transparent here? Well, of course I wasn't. Was I being transparent here? Well, yes, I am. Is transparency better for you than lying? If you use that as the lie. Yeah, if I had to sit in a test and go, is that nicer? Is it better? Does that serve me? Well, yes, it does.
Yeah.
Are my relationships more fruitful? Is my experience here, have I tapped into something beyond indescribable, beyond words, and communicating with people in a way that I never even thought you could?
Yeah.
Is that richer?
Yeah.
Is that abundant? you know, again, they're words, but yes, it is.
Yeah.
When I'm limiting myself here and I'm having to argue with people, watch my back, potentially going to be locked up and you know, and also taking toxins and putting stuff in my body that makes my energy feel low, and I feel drained, and I don't feel like communicating. Because the other thing with communication is that transparent communication requires time, requires energy, it requires an embodiment and an enthusiastic state. Well, if you're in a more suppressed and depressed energy, you're short, and you ain't got no time, you don't care. So, you know, if you want to talk to me, I'm like, I don't want to talk to you, you know, just get out my face, you know, or whatever it might be. So you can see these. So I don't always like to, you know what I mean? I don't like to polarize, but you can sort of see, well, so what I'm sort of playing with is, well, if everybody was coming from this place, and don't get me wrong, you still might tell lies in there. You still got to communicate in a different way. You're still going to feel pain here. I'm not going to say that you're not, but you're going to start to be able to see a way out of that. And so even out of pain, out of suffering, as our perceived terminology of pain and suffering being bad. I don't know if that was a ramble.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's one of the most beautiful things I've heard, actually. Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. I think that really rings powerfully true, because what's lovely about that is that you put that to the real test of one's own experience. And I certainly know in my own experience of the journey of kind of what I'd call kind of looking at life. Because my life, like everybody else's life, has had a number of events and stuff that have happened in my life. But since over the last 10 years or so, I've been on a kind of a journey, and at some point I didn't even realize it was kind of a journey of let's say, call it self-discovery. What was interesting about that journey about self-discovery is that you look at your life as it is before, and stuff that you think or believe or feel or concerned by, and you realize that I've realized that all of that kind of stuff, none of it needs to be fixed, fixed, sorted, or changed anyway, but lots of it kind of falls away. And I often use in the talks the story about that, because it was a profound moment where I saw it literally happen in the moment. And we've talked about this, and I've talked about it, and I talk about my book, The Gift of Inner Success, was when I was estranged from my dad, and when my mum rang me telling me just before I was 30 that my dad had died. And I hated my dad when I was a kid, because I always felt that you should be there, idea that dad should be there, and two people should be there, all the rest of the story. And my mum rang me and said, well, your father's died. We had a short conversation, put the phone down, and in that moment, I didn't do anything, the world changed. Suddenly, from going from somebody that I hated, the world changed, and I just realized, well, here was somebody who was, when they were younger than when I was, they'd left the family, they had made some wrong decisions, and they ended up virtually destitute and without that kind of love. I just thought that's very sad. So from being angry, there's just sadness. I just saw it just as the chain of events that happened, rather than this should be that, that should be that, this is right, this is wrong. I just saw it. So I was freed and liberated from that, and freed and liberated from everything else that I perceived myself to be. So whilst all those things are kind of true, all the things about my life and all the things about the characteristics of who it is that I am, none of those are completely me. None of them are. So I'm far more transparent in a different kind of way. So what you said really resonates with me in a different kind of way. And so it means that I've been far more available. And on this journey, it's led me to the work that I do now. So I'm far more available to just be available, and to invite somebody to look again and afresh at who it is that they are in their story. So I do think there's something very powerful and profound about, you know, when you talk about transparent communication. I think that probably why we have these conversations is also resonates with me in terms of the work that I do, inviting people to look again and to look afresh. Because sometimes when somebody looks again and afresh, it means that they can look and often see for the first time, not from their perspective, but see, including their perspective, including the perspective they currently hold, and they can just see. Without needing to,
because you can see wider, can't you, as well? See, that's actually really good. What you said there is like you're showing up. So actually, what we're saying in this talk, and you know, it being about what is a lie, what is truth, and am I living a lie? That is actually what's really wonderful, because what we're doing is we're actually giving that, and the people listening as well on the Ustream, and obviously going to be watching back on this, is that what we're saying, or what I feel is coming out of this conversation is it's an individual's, completely an individual's freedom and choice to determine what that is for them. But what would be magnificent, and what would actually, I think, help shift a lot that is going on that is destructive in society and in humanity, is if we all gave each individual the support and what, like you said, just showing up to give people that base so that they can actually ask the question, how am I living? Am I living a lie? How am I communicating to my relationships? And so on. So it's not for me or you to say, you're living a lie, look at society, it's a lie, everything's a lie. Although, on many respects, that's how I look at some areas of society, you know, but it's actually just, have you posed the question? Why don't you just look at it? Because you might even bring something new to the pie by going, whoa, yeah, am I living a lie? Is this serving me? How is my actions affecting humanity? Am I part of something beyond what society is, in the frequency of society is actually telling me? And then what we start to do as a nation, as a collective species, we start to actually look at the infinite possibility from a much more compassionate, accepting, allowing, supportive, beautiful vibration. So actually it's powerful to say, excuse me, but it's powerful to say, what is a lie? Sorry, what is truth? And am I living a lie? But not going, oh, if I'm living a lie, I'm a bad person. No, just, you know, look at your life.
I think it's so right. I'm really looking forward to, and it's made me really excited about this documentary, because we also, I guess an element of this is that we also were exploring, did we even want to make this documentary, this talk that we're going to make? I suspect.
what we was, you mean we were exploring?
Yeah, we were exploring because we wanted to know, well, hang on, does it ring true? You know, does it ring true to us? Is it just because, do we want to make this because we think it's going to help people? Do we want to make it because we think it will be useful in terms of profile? Do we think it's going to be, you know, all sorts of different reasons. But I think, as you just said there, that the power of just asking somebody, do you what is truth? And are you living in life? The power of that, just giving somebody space to look, is very powerful and it's very profound. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what people have got to say to that, because I so agree with you in terms of how expansive that can be, and just planting that question, how it can be. And you know, you're a living example of how posing that question, being prepared to go with that, how that.
Because it takes you on a journey. It takes you on a journey, and it doesn't mean that you have to just something coming up about conspiracy. Because you know, most people go, okay, yeah. Then they look at government and they look at conspiracy and they go, oh, everything's lying. And the food, we're lied to about the food, and we're lied in schools, and education's a lie, and that's fine if that's where you go. But it's also, it just doesn't have to. And this is out to everybody listening to this. It doesn't have to be such a depressing, negative experience, because I'm living proof that it's enriching.
It's quite, you're right.
It's really expansive, because it's not. I'm still asking the question. I'm just showing up still from that place and going, well, this is where I live. This is my truth. This is what I'm willing to share with you. I can share with you anything. You can share anything with me. It's not going to affect me or harm me. We can totally have that dialogue, and then from that space of being, trusting each other to come from that transparent place, like what we've been doing, it allows us over time. I'm not expecting everybody like tomorrow to start telling, you know, the truth, their complete truth to everybody, because, you know, I've been on a journey for several years, writing and so on and so forth. But just to take that choice, to make that decision, that is the life-changing, and that is what will affect everything, because every choice affects everything.
Completely. I couldn't agree with that more. And there's a talk that I give sometimes, I've given a couple of times, and called From Conflict to Compassion. And a few things that you said really resonated that back to me, because very often what I've observed is that people feel very often in conflict with themselves because of an idea that they have of how they should be, or what is right and what is wrong. Therefore, there's conflict not only within oneself, within one's relationships, because of how I feel, and then my idea of what's right and what's wrong with you, at work, in the neighbourhood, in the communities, and everywhere you go to globally. But when one is therefore goes on this journey that we're talking about, where therefore one comes at peace with oneself, with one's mind, one does become far more connected and far more compassionate in oneself, in one's relationships, and so on. There's still conflict, but far less so, as you've experienced, as I've experienced also in my life. And it becomes a far more expansive kind of thing, and there's room for the other. One becomes compassionate to the other, because one understands that that person may have had all sorts of ups and downs. So when you're in the supermarket and somebody's just pushed in, you know, sometimes the old thingy will kick in and say, why are you pushing in? But very often there's just an understanding, well, maybe that person's in a hurry, maybe that person, there's stuff going on for them that means that they can't rationalise that way. It cuts down on that conflict. There's a beautiful win from asking the question, merely going on that journey of asking oneself what is truth, but not from a kind of confined space, what rings true, and sometimes even what rings true. I've observed in people it's a very empowering,
totally.
very beautiful thing. It's very, very powerful. But it's interesting. The other side of what you're saying is that I think that you're right. I think very often it does take a lot of time and comfort to be able to do that. But sometimes extraordinary things happen, isn't it? That in a moment you can actually have a conversation with somebody and say something really powerful. It was interesting when you did the one of your Language of Love talks recently, and you invited people to go out and you know, as an exercise to say to people, I love you, to strangers, I love you, and so on, from a loving kind of space. And therefore people were challenging themselves and saying something very powerful that had an impact on them. So there's somebody who, you know, didn't even know what the word love meant before they were saying at the beginning of the workshop. At the end, they said to somebody they had never met, I love you. Yeah. So powerful things can happen when one gives oneself that space and has honor for somebody else, because then something else I can't even describe, I have no idea, happens that is very powerful. And that because sometimes we are locked in these very small these ideas. When we speak from this as honestly as we can, sometimes there's something that reverberates. I think this is an unknown language. It's funny, I'm thinking about your talk, the language of, there's something unknown prior to beyond language, where somebody just knows that they've been honoured. I think that you can often observe this, you know, in people where two people meet and there's just an acknowledgement. There's something whereby, I remember, you know, very briefly, I remember that when I met my grandmother before she passed on, I don't speak Yoruba, which is the language from where my family I'm from in Nigeria. But I met her, and when I met her, she didn't speak any English. We knew each other, obviously we kind of knew that we were related and so on. But there was an unspoken language, an unspoken kind of connection, which was very powerful and was very profound. We didn't even need to speak. Also in that.
There you go.
And you can get so many different scenarios where people who perceived one thing before, but when somebody just says to them, hang on a minute, you know, where are you at? And it allows space for the other to be and breathe.
But that's a good place to end. We have to wrap it up. You know, as always, we could just spiel till the cows come home, but we have to, I think I heard a few of them going moo in the background. But no, basically we have to wrap that up. But you know what, I think that's a nice place to end. Could go for another 10 minutes just on that. But that is it, I think. There is something even beyond language. I think I'm going to end it here. There is something beyond the language when you show up transparently. And that is exactly what Rasheed is describing there. And that is exactly what I'm pointing to. When you truly embody your truth, you will move beyond language, beyond form, beyond label, beyond judgment, beyond expectation, and beyond condition.
Say it again.
Beyond love, beyond expectation, beyond condition. So guys, we're going to leave you there. You see that? And that is, I've got tingles on my neck, which always tells me that we're resonating something, even if it's just the wind that's hit me from outside. And guys, thank you for tuning in. We've gone over, as always, terrorizing my cameraman and my wonderful friend Pedro. But listen guys, thank you so much for tuning in. What is truth? Ask the question, are you living a lie? And be good to yourselves. Don't be so hard on yourselves, and don't fall out of everyone at once. Because that can happen. Give me some love. Thank you.
Good stuff. Thank you for inviting me.